everybody, and welcome back to my channel, TabbyLoves. I'm Tabitha, and I talk to you about the things that I love. Today, we are going to be doing my February TBR, and I wanted to do something slightly different for my February TBR, which is why it's its own video instead of being included in my January reading wrap-up. Now, I love to watch the TBR jar videos. I love the idea of getting a prompt and then picking a few books that kind of like fit that prompt, and then picking your ultimate choice from those books. So I'm gonna do something like that, except I don't have a printer and I'm too lazy to write out a bunch of TBR prompts. So what I did is I plugged them all into my wheel here, and I'm going to spin the wheel 4 times. I'm gonna pick 4 books from the wheel, and we're gonna see what prompts it gives me. Now, on top of these TBR prompts, I'm also going to have my buddy read I do with my friend Adia, and also the buddy read I do with my friend Rachel. Adia and I are going to be doing the 3rd book in the Bridgerton series, because I think like that's the corresponding season that's coming out. I think it might even be out by the time this video comes out. But I wanted to read the book first, so I'm not going to watch the season until the book comes out. Or no, I'm sorry. I'm not going to watch the season until I read the book. The book has been out for a while. And then the other one is my friend Rachel and I, we are each going to be, we're going to be reading some of our favorite series together. Hers is The Cruel Prince. One of mine is Aragon. And I wanted her to read Aragon because I think she'd like it. So we're going to decide either we're going to read The Cruel Prince or we're going to read the first Aragon book. We'll see. But yeah, so further ado, let's get started. Alright, y'all, let's see what the first one's gonna be. A second chance romance? Alright, here's the thing. I actually don't know if I have a second chance romance on my shelf. Let me go investigate that, and I'll be right back. So, I indeed do not have a second chance romance on my shelf. But I found 3 possible choices that are blurring the lines between the definition of second chance and of romance. But let me show you, and let me show you my reasoning. The first one, Lucy Undying. This one I'm counting as a second chance romance because even though she's not going back to, because like this whole thing is supposed to be about Lucy. And she's been in Dracula's clutches and been trying to escape Dracula forever. She becomes unexpectedly taken with this woman named Iris. But Iris's mother is toxic, apparently. And also Lucy's trying to get away from Dracula. So Lucy never believed she would love again after Dracula. But she does fall in love with this Iris. So, you know, that's a second chance at love. And then we have Immortal Consequences, one of my Book of the Month books. This one is more of a second chance on life because they're going for a competition to be, to join the magical elite. But there's also not only academic rivals, which is kind of a second chance because they're giving each other a second chance because they have connections that or strange connection that blurs the line between obsession and hate. And then there's a charming playboy who never cared for anyone until he met the academy's new student. That's kind of, again, a second chance at romance, you know, or a second chance at the afterlife, kind of. And this one is technically the most a little bit out there. But Daughter of the Blood, this one includes a romance that I don't know if there's going to be 3 men that are interested in this one girl, or if it's going to be competing against each other for the girl, or if they're all going to have the girl together. But that kind of seems like it could kind of be a second chance romance potential, you know? So, those are my 3 choices. And it's a hard pick. Part of me feels like this one is technically the closest to the prompt. I've been wanting to read this one forever, but it's the furthest from the prompt, so that one's probably going to be out. But Immortal Consequences, I recently started following the author on Instagram. So I kind of want to read her book, and I haven't really had the opportunity to really read many of my Book of the Month books yet. But this is the closest to the prompt. So, you know what? I'm gonna go with Lucy Undying. Let's go ahead and do vampires. Why not? Alright, spin number 2. Hopefully this prompt ends up better than the last one. A book with a one title? A one title? Hold on. Does it mean like a one-word title? Hold on. Alright, so I took that prompt that it's supposed to say a one-word title. So here are the options I have here. First up, there is Scythe. Now, the Scythe is the one I'm least likely to go with out of this group, because I have said before that if the wheel landed on something like this, where I own the whole series, I'm going to read all the books in the series I own. And this one, I own the complete trilogy. Or is it like 4 books? I think it's like 3 or 4 books. And I don't have enough room in the month to read this entire trilogy right now. Though I could start it and have it spill into next month. But it's a short month, February, so I don't want to overload it. So I'm going to hold off on this one. It'll get its chance. Next, Lumen, or Lumine? I bet it's Lumen. This book is actually, it was originally a Webtoons comic, and I used to be into Webtoons, and I'm not really into Webtoons anymore. But when I was into Webtoons, I actually read this comic. So I'm familiar with it up to a certain point, but it'd be fun to read. It'd be kind of a quick read, which again would be nice for how much shorter February is. And I don't read graphic novels very often, so it'd be a nice little change of pace, I think. The other option, there's 2 more. I could read Caraval. Now, I am currently working my way through the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. I've read the first 2 books. I just have to read the last book in the trilogy. It would be fun to also, like, round out the universe and read Caraval. Though I only own the first Caraval book. But I could easily, like, listen to the other ones through the library or something. But finally, Hazelthorn is another Book of the Month pick, but also I read Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews, and I loved their writing. Like, I loved that book. So I'm kind of tempted to read this one to get caught up on their discography, if that's what it's called, their backlog, because they have more books coming out in the next few years. So it'd be kind of nice to stay caught up on them. So I'm kind of tempted to read this one, though it definitely maybe seems more like a fall vibe. And Lumen, for example, seems more like a winter vibe. So honestly, I'm kind of really debating between these 2. Though I do want to read Caraval too. And Caraval I feel like is kind of seasonal. It's a hard choice between these 2. My heart is so torn. What I'm gonna do is I am gonna pick Lumen. Just like, it just reminds me of snow. I think it's perfect for February. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, hold up. Because February, it's a romance month, right? Both of these have romances in them. You know what? I take it back. I'm gonna read Hazelthorn. Now that I've thought about what holiday is in February, I'm choosing Hazelthorn. Alright, let's do our 3rd spin. A book that will be adapted into a TV or movie? Hold on, this one's going to require a little bit of research. So my options for this were limited. And technically the prompt says will be adapted, and my 2 choices have already been adapted. But the 2 choices I have are A Discovery of Witches or A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Now, I feel like both of these could fit, like, the temperature atmosphere. However, I don't know about, the February atmosphere with romances and stuff. I have a feeling this one could potentially have a romance subplot, but I think this one also has a romance subplot. It's kind of thick, though, but neither of the other books I've chosen are all that thick. thick, I mean. So it wouldn't be that bad to do a little bit of a thicker one. But this one is also YA. And my little brother Charlie got me this one. So I'm kind of leaning towards this one. Even though this one has been on my list for a while, so has this. And this would kind of be nice. I have the second book in this one though. And because, again, the deal I made with myself is that if I read this one, then I'm going to have to read the second one as well. And that would fill up, like, my fourth book spot. So maybe I go with A Discovery of Witches, since I only own the first book in this series. I don't know. Is this book a trilogy, or is it just a duology? Hold on. Maybe I do read this one, and I don't read the second book yet. Yeah, I'm gonna go with this one. And you know what, maybe we'll see. If I get through the first few books I need to read this month, and I get to this one, and I have still a bunch of time, maybe I will read both. We'll see. Or maybe if I really, really like this one, I'll feel compelled to read the second one too. So yeah, I'm gonna go with that one. Alright, one last spin for February. A young adult novel. Okay, I have several options for those. Okay, I have lots of options for this prompt. And I didn't even grab every single option that technically fit it because there's too many, so I did put a few back. But first and foremost, I could just cheat and include the sequel in this prompt because this series is a young adult series. So I am tempted to just include this book as book number 4 and call it good, because I already said that technically would probably take up the slot. However, I also do have The Naturals. I've heard good things about that one. It'd be kind of fun to do almost like a kind of crime thriller with mind powers kind of thing. There is House of Frank. This one was a bindery imprint that was published by a book talker that I follow. And so that kind of makes me like interested in this one. I heard this one's kind of cozy, kind of cute. I think it has witches in it. And that's always a lot of fun. There is House of Hollow, which I'll get into it in my reading wrap-up, but I was reading Belladonna, and for a minute I confused Belladonna and House of Horrors, or House of Hollow, I mean, because the covers are just kind of similar, and in my head I thought I owned Belladonna, but it was this book I owned instead. But this book would be fun, you know. A sister goes missing, and apparently all of these girls, like all 3 sisters, were missing when they were kids and came back. Well, one of the sisters is missing again, and no one knows what happened. And I could also choose one of the previous picks too, Lumen. I could include him in this category too, because this is also technically a young adult novel. Though this might technically be closer to like a children's novel than necessarily or maybe like a middle grade novel, more so than a young adult novel. So, all of that being said, I am leaning towards maybe just choosing the sequel. It'll round things out quite nicely for my TBR list. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm gonna choose that option. Because it's convenient. And honestly, none of these are like tickling my fancy all that much right now, except for maybe The Naturals. But since I made that promise to myself, and I kind of want to stick with it. So yeah, let me wrap it up and show you all 4 choices. Okay, we're starting with Lucy Undying, vampires, romance, perfect for February. Then we're gonna move on to Hazelthorn. Again, this one's kind of a forest rot, gothic, LGBTQ romance. And then we're going to end the month with A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and then the sequel, Good Girl, Bad Blood. Now, I think this is a trilogy, but worst comes to worst, I can listen to the 3rd book through the library. That's probably what I'll end up doing. Though the 3rd book and listening through the library doesn't count for this count, because audiobooks in my head are a little bit different because I can listen to them at work. And so my audiobook TBR is always different than the TBR I put in these videos, but they show up in my reading wrap-up videos, which is why even if you watch these videos, you should still watch my wrap-up at the end of the month to see what other books I add. And then on top of that, any other books that I end up, like if I read all of these and I need to make a new selection, I will go back to how I've been picking my books in January, which I just spin the wheel with all the titles on my TBR and let it pick a book randomly. So, and those will show up again in my February reading wrap-up. But anyway, thank you guys for watching me choose my February TBR. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you like this setup. We can start doing this monthly. I don't mind switching to doing TBR prompts instead of just having the wheel pick my reads, or we can even do the wheel pick my reads, you know? I could just show you, have spin the wheel 4 times, see what 4 books it lands on. I could go back to that if that's what you guys were more interested in. But the prompt one was a little bit fun. It was kind of nice to be able to kind of pick, but have my choices be narrowed. So yeah. Like and subscribe if you want to see more. Leave a comment down below if you have read any of these, your opinions on if you like this setup. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Love you guys. Goodbye.